with Simon and Aaron with Effectivenes and Arbitrage. I know normally we're upstairs, y'all, but yesterday Santino turned 6. Mommy's baby turned 6. So we had a huge party, and my living room still has way too much confetti all over it. So we're going to give you guys just a different angle of the beautiful home that hubby provides for us. So today, Simon thought it would be good to really talk about. We often talk about how to generate wealth, things we can do in order to find the arbitrages in life, for both our life portfolios and wealth portfolios. But what he wants to do is he wants to take us a tier higher. And again, I do want to remind you guys that no matter what we talk about, it always goes back to Bitcoin, precious metals, whatever altcoins you guys are in that are lucrative and are increasing the earning potential in your wealth portfolio. So today he wants to talk about effectiveness in relation to your wealth and some of the tips, habits, some of the ideas that you can come across in order to make it even more effective during your wealth generating journey, as well as your wealth maintenance journey.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about, we're going to go over a book. We're not going to go over the whole book, but it's a very popular book. As I have read, it has sold over 40 million copies. It's a book written in 1989. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And a lot of you out here might be familiar with this book. It's written by Stephen R. Covey. And like I said, it's a long book. It's 381 pages. But what we're going to do is we're going to hit the bullet points and then expound on them. And you know, we don't want to keep you too long with the whole thing. It is a very, very popular book. So.
And before you start, babe, I do want to tell the audience that if you ever get a chance to look at when very successful people, CEOs, what's the name of the Salinas? What's Salinas' first name here in Mexico?
Ricardo
Pliego Salinas.
Yes.
Whenever they do interviews, he's the second richest gentleman in Mexico. I think Carlos Slim is the first. Whenever you see these two gentlemen have interviews, you can often see the library behind them. A lot of times when you're talking or when you're seeing interviews with Jay-Z and other very affluent people, what's dude's name from Twitter?
Jack Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey. They often refer to these books. These CEOs, the COOs, your C-suite people, your successful entrepreneurs are constantly reading, as the Simon family. So hubby and I have been going through this book this week. It was part of our productivity objective for the week. We typically have them every week. And hubby just wants to kind of go over some things that gave us some great insight for you guys.
Yeah, so we're going to go over the 7 tips, the bullet points. We'll call it, what do you call it? The Cliff Notes version of this.
Cliff Notes.
So the first one, habit number 1, is called be proactive. So be proactive, and how does it
help effectivity? So proactiveness, now, one of the issues is because people have issues with time management, it can be difficult to be proactive when your time's all messed up. So being proactive is basically like being on the offense instead of being on the defense. People, like the masses, have trouble with procrastination. You have this big thing that needs to be done. And while you may be very capable of doing it, no problem, you find all these other little things to do instead of kind of getting to it. I did that this year with our taxes. Typically, I do our taxes in January, but I noticed I kept finding all these little things to do instead of sitting down and spending the 3 whole days working on our personal taxes and our business taxes. So being proactive would be, Aaron, it's January, let's get this done. And really taking the bull by the horns, getting it done, and being proactive helps with your time management, because as that new thing comes onto your schedule, that new to-do thing, because they're going to keep coming, y'all, just keep coming. It'll begin to pile up when you're not proactive. So proactiveness is a huge critical component of time management.
And also, you know, so we're going to, you know, we bring it back around to wealth building. being proactive. Far too often, I talk to people, whether it's Bitcoin and or precious metals, and they ask a lot of questions, and I tell them certain places to go, these good places, good wallets, and people kind of, like she said, procrastinate. Like, I'll get it, I'll get to it. And when you want to do is you want to get proactive with your wealth building. You want to take, like she said, the bull by the horns. You want to start getting your Bitcoin. That's why we say dollar cost averaging, because it kind of takes it away from you. You don't have to think about it, and it happens on its own. Even with silver and gold and things like that, you want to get proactive. Start building like now. Like, I want to get aggressive with it, and that way, it over time it will build up, and you'll be very surprised how much you can amass just by taking a little bit of your fiat currency and investing it into things like Bitcoin and gold or silver, right? And proactive, and also a part of being proactive is self accountability.
Yeah.
Right. So if 10 years from now, Bitcoin's at whatever 250,000, or gold's at 10,000, silver's at 200, and you're like, dang, I should have bought it back then. And I had talked to some people, that is self accountability of why you may have missed out on a lot of wealth. So yeah, self accountability, proactive, right?
But also proactiveness, because the market operates the way it does. The fluctuation of the market, Bitcoin's up to 60,000 this month, it's down to 20,000 the next month. Proactiveness will allow you, and not just Bitcoin, but other investments that you guys are involved in. Proactiveness allows you to mitigate some of the risk and profit loss during the fluctuation of the market. This is why we often talk about dollar cost averaging, being consistent. You're gaining the opportunity as it's happening, which puts you on the offense instead of putting you on the defense, where now you have to figure out a way to mitigate your losses.
So that's great. So we're going to go on to habit number 2. So habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind, right? So begin with the end in mind. We're going to repeat that. Why is that important, right? That is also another way of saying, plan it out to the end, right?
The blueprint.
And then working its way back.
Reverse engineering it back.
That's what a lot of people talk about, reverse engineering, seeing the end and then walking it back. And that way you can see how you get there. So begin with the end in mind.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that point up, because Simon and I have been noticing in various other areas, people are constantly saying, I want this, I want that, I deserve this, I deserve that. And when you start really dialing in and asking them questions, they have no idea what that looks like. Okay, so I'm going to use this example, and hopefully I don't get myself in trouble, but for the women who want high value men, I want a man who makes $1 million a year so he can take care of me. And often those young ladies don't understand what comes along with a man who makes $1 million a year, especially when he's a business guy, right? We're not talking about athletes. We're not talking about entertainers. When men are like building their wealth from the ground up, like we all in this space are building our wealth in the ground up, those men are not going to allow you to squander their funds. So I'm often like, okay, what are you going to do with the money as he makes it? Because he's going to be a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? He's going to be a lot more
demanding.
Not just demanding, but he's going to be a lot more like particular in what the money is going towards. I'm gonna use particular for now, but there's a word I'm looking for. Like, for instance, my husband's very particular in where the wealth's going. Does it mean that he doesn't spoil his wife? Yes, he does, but only in certain capacities. He's not gonna allow me or any of our children to squander the wealth that he's worked so hard to build, to maintain, to protect. And you have to know what that kind of looks like. When you're taking a wealth journey with someone who's very adamant, like my husband is extremely adamant, he wants to know that his great grandchildren are gonna be okay in the world. based on his actions. So it's one of those things where when you have a vision, you want to have the vision all the way to the end. You want to kind of plan. You want to ask those critical thinking questions. You want to try to see what are some of the stumbling blocks and the challenges that are involved in this vision building. And you really want to create the blueprint like a company would create, like an architect would create a blueprint for a building. Where are the load-bearing walls going to go? What does the land look like? Is there going to be sinkholes? Is the ground too hard? Is the ground too soft? They have all of these things that they have to see all the way through to the end before they even start building the foundation of the building or the house or whatever it is that they're building.
Right. And so in regards to wealth building, you want to see the end, right? So what is your end goal of your wealth building journey? You know, we talk a lot about generational wealth, right? Looking out for generation after generation after generation, but that's not always everybody's goal in wealth building. You might have a wealth building goal that isn't that, but whatever it may be, you want to see the end result and work your way back, right? If you you know what, I don't know if your wealth building is like they say to get Lambos. We out here getting Lambos when Bitcoin goes up. If that's your goal, that's your goal. But you see it, you know, you see it first, and then you work your way back. And whatever your wealth building goal is, because like I said, people have different wealth building goals. We come from a certain perspective. So that is our goal. That's what we talk about. But other people have other goals. And so all it is just seeing your goal and seeing the end of the goal, so you know what it looks like as you as you achieve your goal.
But it could be something as practical as your first house, your starter home. It could be your forever home. Like we're at an age now where this is looking like it's going to be our forever home, y'all, because we just love it so much, and we just have so many great and fantastic memories with our children here. So some of your wealth building goals can be short term, like we talked about. It could be as simple as like, I want to put a down payment towards some type of educational goal, or like you said, a car. It don't have to be a Lambo, y'all. It can be something nice, like maybe a Audi or a Tesla or BMW or Mercedes. Just something that's going to increase at some which way, shape, or form the quality of your life. So for us, ours is very long term. We have bought all the stuff we could ever buy, driven all the cars we could have ever driven. Right now, our goal is for our descendants. But this also works for short-term goals. Like in 2 years, I want to kind of be here. I want to live in this house. Maybe you want to move to another country. Maybe you want to move to another city. Right? So this works having that end in mind. It keeps you motivated all the way through, because you're going to have a lot of challenges. You're going to have a lot of stumbling blocks and a lot of things to work out and tweak in order to get to that end.
Yeah, so definitely a very important habit of effective people. And, you know, we're going to go on to the habit 3. I like this habit because it scales out very nicely from just running a household to maybe running a whole corporation. And it says, put first things first. All right, so that is habit number 3. And I'm gonna go over just something real quick, and then I'll let you break down the game on it. So, you know, Dwight D. Eisenhower, President of the United States, has a thing that you guys may be familiar with. It's called the Eisenhower Matrix. And it is a way that you break these things down in 4 quadrants, right? So quadrant number 1, when we're talking about put first things first, urgent and important. So things that you have to do, right? They're important, and deadlines and crises. So that's quadrant number 1. Quadrant number 2, as you break it down, you have not urgent, but important. So things that you have to plan for, right? And those are things, long-term planning, development, like we talk about low time preference. That's your second quadrant. Okay, your third quadrant is it's urgent, but not important. So that is things that can be delegated to somebody. If, you know, you're too busy, this thing is urgent, but it's not so urgent or important that you have to stop what you're doing. You just delegate it to somebody that you trust. And then the fourth quadrant, of course, is not urgent and not important. So basically they say eliminate it. It's not worth your distraction. So those are the 4 quadrants of the Eisenhower matrix. But we're gonna break it down. And so how would you break that
So
down?
when we talk about putting first things first, it's really prioritization, right? And prioritization requires you to sit down and do some critical thinking and what is actually urgent, right? So for those of us who are bogged down in businesses and running businesses and working for businesses, emails drive us absolutely bonkers, right? Because a lot of times we forget that some of the emails are not urgent, not important, and it's now a distraction. So what some of the things I do, like for our businesses, I will scan the emails, right? I'm not going to sit and read and look, and then I'm scanning them. And then I kind of flag the ones that are actually urgent, that are actually important, right? That way I can focus on those when it's time to actually focus. And then everything else may either be important, but not urgent. And some of them are just not important and not urgent, right? So I'm using emails as an example, but this is time management again. Everything that we're talking about today is going to piggyback off the show that we just did with time management. So this requires you to have enough time at the beginning of your day or at the end of your day to plan for the next day in order to gain the right prioritization. It's a more effective way to utilize your time, especially when you have to multitask amongst, multiple things within the household. We run businesses. Because obviously we need the income in order to continue to invest. We run a whole entire household. In our household, dinner is important, but not urgent. So often we would delegate that to our sons. Hey, here's the list. Mommy made the shopping list. You guys go to the supermarket. Dad's gonna give you a card or give you cash or whatever in order to get the groceries. And they'll go and they'll take care of that. They'll often even cook. We took the time to teach them how to cook. That way, when he and I are stuck in meetings, and phone calls and consultations and so on and so forth, they can make sure that that is urgent. The family needs to eat. Smaller children can't wait, right? When they're hungry now. And we can delegate something that is, it's important, it's not urgent, but it's something that we also don't have to kind of be bothered with, but it still gets taken care of in a timely manner.
And I'm just gonna piggyback a little bit off of that, which he says, if you guys are familiar with the very, would you say, famous entrepreneur Gary Vee.
Oh, Gary Vee.
Gary Vee, I like Gary Vee a lot. Shout out to Gary Vee. He often talks about how his day is about putting out fires, and that goes through that quadrant, right? So he has to assess what needs to be dealt with right now. Well, can I get to this a little bit later? Can I have my assistant take care of this? And, so on and so forth. So that is, the quadrant that they use. And, I think they teach this in professional development. I believe that's what you told me. So people are probably familiar with it. It helps you, like she said, balance your day. So you know what to get to right now, what you can put off, what you can have somebody else do, what you don't even have to worry about. So that's all that is, that's, as he says, putting out fires. Did you want to say anything else about it?
No, it's just taking the time at, like I said, the beginning of the day or the end of the day to plan for the next day. It's a more effective way for you to utilize your time from day to day. That way you're putting the first things first. You're realizing the things that you thought might need your attention, but actually don't, that somebody else can do. Or like he said, a limit, like, oh, I don't need to do anything with this. There's no action required for this.
Right.
This doesn't even need for me to do anything with it. Instead of, now that's being on the offensive. On the defensive is now figuring all of these things out during the day. And unfortunately, when you do it that way, you start to realize how much time you're wasting on things that didn't need your attention. The things that did need your attention could have gotten done earlier, and you can kind of lessen your distractions. People are under the false illusion that busy is busy, and you can absolutely be busy doing absolutely nothing.
This is very, very true. We've all seen it before. So it's good. We're gonna go on to the 4th habit here. So the 4th habit is think win-win. Real simple. It's a real simple concept. And go ahead and tell them about it.
So when we talk about think win-win, it's essentially, people think it's positivity. It's not necessarily positivity as much as it's think not what this person can do for you, but think about what you can do for them. The Bible tells us that man is inherently selfish. And we do have to walk in the world understanding that everybody is literally out for themselves. It is something that as you begin your character building, you really want to come away from.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be able to offer your collaborative party something and then think about maybe what they can offer you. It should be a part of your philanthropic portfolio,
Yes.
Your charitable portfolio, because while you are getting something done for your company, for your business, for your personal portfolio, you still want to go above and beyond to offer something to that collaborative party, and not always money. Right? Some people are, well, I'm paying for the service, so that's good enough. It's like, when we're talking about actual collaborative endeavors, we really want to see what type of talent, what type of necessity can you bring to the table before you start asking for all of the things that you want. I'm going to use the example again, right? I laugh because I hear the young ladies talk about they want high value men, but one of the questions is, okay, great. Now, what do you bring to the table for this particular situation? When you're dealing with businesses, you know that when they go on Think Tank, it's Think Tank, right? With Damon and the guy from Fubu. It's Think Tank. It's Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
It's Shark Tank. When they go to Shark Tank, typically people are like, I have this great idea and I want your money to invest in it so that I can get my idea off the ground. It's not the right way to approach it. How you really want to approach it, especially when you want investors to kind of deal with you, is you want to approach the investors with, here is what I can bring to the table to add value to whatever you are going to do for me.
Right. And like, we've done a show a long time ago. That is one of the 48 laws of power, where you bring what you can do to the person, right? You don't ask the person for something first, right? Without, giving them something. So I can't off the top of my head remember the exact verbiage of it, but yeah, that is one of the 48 laws of power, and like she says, win-win. So, I want to see you win, and then, so that I can win.
Right.
And that's how you, you approach it, in that win-win mindset. And you can, like I said, it's scalable. You can think about that from the smallest level of just, if you're doing business, just person to person, all the way out. If you're just building out, you have corporations doing business to corporations and things like that. So you want to think win-win, so people don't feel like they got kind of screwed over, if you will, and stuff like that. And it keeps you, like we had another show about your reputation. It keeps your reputation strong.
Yes.
If you win, people come back. People go tell other people like, yo, she's solid, he's solid. Go do business with them, and it keeps it moving. So you always want to kind of have that mindset. That's a habit of a highly effective person.
And before you move on, a lot of people have gotten the quote that JFK talked about. They misunderstand it. So JFK's quote is, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And that's a businessman, right? Doesn't matter how on board the business is, business is business, right? Because now you're moving into morality and ethics and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that. But what the bottom line is that he was trying to express to the country was, if everybody said, what can I do for my country? Then collectively, you will see the country being able to do something for everybody individually and collectively. And that is the macro level view that we're often trying to give you guys. A lot of people, like we say, they don't get to travel, they don't get to leave their city. Some people don't really leave their townships, right? And even venture into the city that they live in, or the bigger part of the city that they live in. So unfortunately, it offers people a very myopic point of view on things, where everything is all about you and how this benefits you and what this has to do with you. What we want to do as Simon Family Investment Venture is offer our audience macro level views so that they can kind of see a much bigger picture and then kind of reverse engineer it back down to their own myopic sense of purpose and perspective.
Most definitely. That was a great breakdown right there. I'm gonna go into the next one, the fifth habit. This might be Aaron's favorite habit. Okay, but it says seek first to understand, then to be understood, right? And that kind of speaks for itself. I'll go a little technical, just to some of the thought process behind Mr. Covey's what he had here. He uses the Greek philosophy here. We're going to go through these the model of persuasion, right? So number one, if I can get this right, is ethos, right? So what is ethos?
Oh, I must miss that part. I don't know.
Yeah,
Ethos is one's personal credibility.
Right.
It is the trust that one inspires. It's one's emotional bank account. All right, y'all. I didn't do part of my homework that he told me to do. That's my bad.
No worries, no worries. So then you have pathos, right? So it's the empathetic side of you, the alignment with emotional, trust of another person's communication. And then you have
the logos.
Logos is the logic, the reasoning part of the presentation. So
in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the original, it's not the original, right? That's not Aramaic, it's actually Greek, was logos, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And basically everything we're supposed to be doing is walking in the Word of God. But outside of all of that, if we just wanted to break this down in its bare simplicity, it is active listening. What a lot of people do is they listen in order to respond. So as this person's talking to you, you're formulating, you're not really listening, but you're listening enough to just formulate what you want to say. And often that's how we have communication mishaps. That's how we have a lot of altercations, confrontations, conflict, so on and so forth. Active listening is focusing on what the collaborative party is discussing with you, taking time to pause and think about it, and then offer whatever response that is appropriate or necessary for that particular conversation. Active listening also requires you to answer questions directly. We are noticing that as people ask questions, people's responses are like all the way around the block. And sometimes they don't even get to what the question was, and then when it's like, I forgot what question I asked you, and you didn't answer it.
And if not, it's somebody answering a question with a question,
which doesn't answer the question.
Yeah, that always annoys me. I asked you the question. Well, let me ask you a question. Okay, can you answer the question I asked you first, so we can see what's going on? So, like she said, active listening. Right?
It requires direct responses. So when you're actively listening, again, man is inherently selfish. Active listening requires you to come outside of yourself and to focus on the other party and what they have to say, what they have to offer. Again, pausing, taking time to formulate your response. I'm sorry, y'all, the sun is like, it's there, it's not there. It's there, it's not there. Taking time to formulate a response. That way you can have a more clear, concise, and accurate communication interaction with the party that you're dealing with. And again, that reduces time, it reduces effort, it reduces conflict, it reduces confrontations, it reduces separations. And when I say separations, it'll come to the point where sometimes the collaborative party no longer wants to work with the other party, right? Or worse, it can affect your reputation if it gets too bad, right? Because then the word gets out like, he doesn't listen, you can't do business with this person because they're only concerned with getting their business off the ground. They're not, concerned with how they can help, get other businesses off the ground, and they're not really good to collaborate with as a startup or yada, yada, yada. Maybe they can't scale up because it's too much of a selfish interest in what's happening with collaborative parties.
Right. And, like I say, I'll circle it back around to investing and stuff like that. Often you see here on YouTube, I consider myself maybe a Bitcoin maximalist. And so then you have people out here who talk about other coins. But what I'm saying is, too often you see people arguing about what's better. This is better. This has a better chance. This has a better use case. Yeah, we get it. But I like to do is I will actively listen. So if you have a certain project or something you think has a use case and you're talking to me, I will listen to it. You know, just because I'm a maximalist doesn't mean I won't listen to, you know, the things that you had to say about the project, and I'll take it under consideration, right?
Absolutely.
Take it under consideration. We're not going to argue. I'm not here to debate about what's better. I'm not here for that. Just, you know, tell me you got something good. I'm willing to listen. Just like, you know, we talk to people sometimes. There was a famous debate between billionaire, if you guys are familiar, his name's Frank Justra and Michael Saylor.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And so the debate basically was, which one is better, gold or Bitcoin, right? And it was a very friendly debate. It wasn't like, you know, hostile. But what you did notice about the debate is that both people were willing to take things under advisement or consideration. Right. It's like, okay, I understand what you're saying, and say, okay, like she said, pause, and you just think about it. Like, okay, I heard what you said there. Not just listening so I can build, like she said, an argument in my mind. So as soon as you finish speaking, boom, I'm right there with my point. You know, so it was a very gentlemanly debate or discussion. But yeah, that's what I say. I take stuff under advisement. And, you know, sometimes you get going one way, and, you know, if people have to talk to you about something, you know, you're like, no, you're bullheaded. No, this is how I do it. I do it. Somebody might be telling you something. If you just took a step back and listen and say, you know what, that might not be a bad idea.
Or just let me think about it.
Let me think about it. There you go. But like she said, active listening, right? So, you know, listen to understand, right? And then you'll be understood when you have to say what you have to say.
Another aspect to that, because we often talk about the time management ties into that, but self-accountability also ties into that. When you see people who have to be right, who have to win the argument, that is a red, not a red flag, but that should be an indication that I may need to step back and work on active listening, right? Because now the conversation isn't about the conversation anymore. Now the conversation is whatever it is we're talking about, it doesn't matter, I have to be right. Or I have to be the smartest person in the room, or I have to be the smartest person involved in this conversation. It just takes away from the whole point and objective of whatever it is you're talking about, and then nothing really gets done.
It doesn't get done. And like you said, you can always go back to the old school saying of agree to disagree, right? If we're talking about something, you have a point, I have a point, just agree to disagree, right? I mean, it's the old saying my mom used to say, it's more than one way to skin a cat, right? So you can get, you can get to where you're going in many different paths. Good brother Panic always says, it's many paths to light, right? Just because I'm going this way doesn't mean I'm going the wrong way.
No.
And just because you're going that way doesn't mean you're going the wrong way. We're just going two different ways, and we might still get to the same end point. So, that's why I say agree to disagree, because you still might get where you're going anyway while you do it your way and I do it my way.
And if you feel like people tell you too much, they're like, oh, you always have to be right, or you think you're the smartest person in the room. Don't feel like you're being attacked. You want to just take it with a grain of salt and say, okay, maybe I can kind of brush up on my active listening skills. If you are trying to scale up, if you are running businesses, if you are a part of business building, even if you work for someone else, active listening is the most critical aspect of scaling up, because active listening allows you more effective ways in collaboration. Simon and I are going to say this, and we're going to yell it from the top of our house, which is on top of a mountain that's on top of a mountain. It is, no one has ever gotten wealthy by themselves, right? You're not an island. You cannot do it all by yourself. It does require some type of collaborative effort, even if it's something like I've been watching YouTubes. Even though like we are not talking with you guys actively, you guys are actively listening to some of the ideas, some of the insights, some of the experiences that we and other content creators have to offer to you. We do the same thing. right? This is our show. We watch lots of other content creators, right?
Yeah,
And get ideas and try to implement. And as scientists, we play around with some of the suggestions and the hacks and stuff that they have to offer. So it's very important that if that is a skill you need to work on, and everybody needs to work on it. Simon and I have been practicing active listening for years in child rearing, right? That's where our journey started. It
Yep.
was important that we listen to our children. When I was growing up, it was children must be seen and not heard. And I ain't for that. Children must be seen as well as heard. So when Simon and I were raising our family, actively listening to the children, are there any red flags? Is somebody doing something to them? Did something happen to them somewhere when they weren't with us? We've been on the active listening journey for a very long time. Doesn't mean that Simon and I aren't, working to polish that any way we can.
Oh no, every day. Every day you work to get better. So
And in our relationship, whether it's a business relationship aspect that we're coming from, or our romantical aspect, or our parental aspect with each other as co-parents, active listening is something you absolutely want to incorporate into your life portfolio.
Very well said. Very well said indeed.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna go to habit number 6. This one I really like, and it's called synergize. So I'm gonna just read the direct book definition of what synergize means. It means combine the strategies of people through positive teamwork, right? So that you can achieve goals that no one could have achieved individually, right? So it's basically getting really down to teamwork. And teamwork is big in life in general. I'm always a big sports guy. So we're gonna have some teamwork. You gotta have some teamwork in sports so that you can accomplish stuff. It's not a one-man show. You need this person to do their job, you do your job, you do your job. We all come together and we achieve something that not one of us could have done by ourselves. You see that at work, right? As well at work, right? When you're doing projects and things like that. And so that's why I'm big on synergize, because it's really about teamwork and teamwork make the dream work. Is that what they told me?
Teamwork makes the dream
That's
work.
what they told me.
Shout out to my Wu-Tang fans. I often find it interesting that ODB's first bar was "I'm a one-man army," a song. I never been taken out. I have to keep going because y'all know the song, but ODB was part of the only rap group that had 9 people in it and then 1,000 affiliates, right? So it was kind of funny that the person who was in the 9-man rap group would have a bar that says, "I'm the one-man army," a song, right? Because that was his name. But not to
digress, but there is no one-man army in life, right? I mean, there's armies all around the world. It's not one man. It's a group of individuals who come together to get the mission accomplished, right? No matter you're talking about Army, Marines, Air Force, Navy, you name it, they work together in teamwork, synergize, so that they can get everything done that no one person, no matter how smart, no matter talented, how strong, fast, can't get done.
And y'all know I'm a nerd, so I'm gonna take y'all on an anthropological context. Man has always been tribal, right? Man was not designed to move or operate or live alone. Those of you who do read the Bible, God created Adam, and what did he say? Man should not be alone, and he created a helpmate for him. And her name was Eve, and we don't have to go into it, whether you guys agree with that or disagree with that. But understand that it takes 2 people in order to make more people, right? So that is the universe's locked in law of physics. It's immutable, cannot be changed, that people need each other. There's no such thing as a one-man army. No one is an island. No one has ever gotten wealthy alone. And to be honest, I hear a lot of people say, I do it all by myself. And, I don't need anybody to do anything for me, but that's not true. right? If your house catches on fire, you need the fire department to come put that fire out. Shout out to my fire departments all over the US. Y'all know my baby was a firefighter, so I love firefighters. But if there's a domestic dispute, people call the police. That gets shaky from time to time. But even to eat, you got to go to the supermarket. Somebody had to pick those crops or create whatever food or butcher that animal or whatever it is that you need in life. It had to come from the hand of someone else, even babies, right? The infant is required of the mother to feed it, whether you're breastfeeding or feeding with formula. No person was designed to do anything or even exist alone from an anthropological standpoint and context. So 2, you don't want to call that thing upon yourself. What people don't understand is you create your own reality. So if you keep saying, I take care of myself, I don't need nobody to do nothing for me, I don't need this, I don't need that, I do it all on my own, you're calling that on you. You're creating that reality for yourself, and things get harder and harder and harder and more difficult to accomplish. So we often want to just express that the most effective way to approach something is collaboratively.
And see, even in this investment space, whether it's the cryptocurrency world or precious metals, it could be stock market. You want to collaborate with people. Synergize. You come together, you share ideas. Maybe you work together to create something that you guys wouldn't have created individually. And from my old school cats out there, right? What was the cartoon? You had the form
like Voltron,
right? Everyone was okay. They had their skill, this skill, but their best skills when they all came together. Form like Voltron. So that's what we got to do.
Wait, I got my 80s reference. Shout out to my Gem and the Holograms. If you used to love Gem and the Holograms like I did, y'all, she was Beyonce before Beyonce, y'all. She used to have to call on Synergy in order to become Jen. In order to become Gem, right? So she couldn't be fabulous concert Beyonce, but at the time it was Gem. We didn't know who Beyonce was, but you just wanted an idea. Beyonce is a real life Gem and Holograms. She couldn't be fabulous without calling on Synergy to synergize herself and to turn her into concert Gem. So, just understanding that even when we're watching cartoons, they try to teach children teamwork through cartoons and other stuff. We watch movies. For those of you guys who love that Fast and Furious franchise, we were talking about it the other day. They got like 9, 10, 11 movies. I don't even know what the plots are in the movies, but the fact that you could have 10 movies with all of these people coming together to form some objective, even Hollywood is telling you we cannot do this alone.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's why I say it's it's teamwork, but we have to use a fancy word. Right?
Synergize.
Yes. Makes it sound good. Her name was Synergy?
Her name was Synergy. She used to touch her purple star, and Synergy would create the hologram in order to turn her into basically concert Beyonce.
Okay, that's pretty good.
She could dance, she could sing, but she couldn't do that when she was just in her human persona.
Okay. All right, and now we're going to go to the 7th and last habit. I also like this habit as well. I like all of them, but I like this habit as well. It's called, as he put it, sharpen the saw. For my old school cats out there, we used to call it sharpen your sword. What did you say? Sharpen your craft.
Yeah, I say sharpen the craft. But for my Wu-Tang fans,
sharpen the sword. So but
it was a liquid sword too, wasn't it?
Well,
that's difficult.
But so go into what sharpening your saw, sword, or craft means.
Okay. So we're noticing that, we have a lot of entrepreneurs nowadays, but you're also noticing that a lot of the entrepreneurs are missing very critical aspects of their business, right? And you see all of the complaints on Yelp and whatever review area that you look at. She doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, this doesn't get done, so on and so forth. So I want to explain to you guys that there's nothing wrong with apprenticeship. Okay, apprenticeship is as ancient as the world. You often have a master whatever, whether it's master chef, master seamstress, master shoemaker, I can go on to a million things.
Right.
Nowadays in a technological age, that master is typically going to be some type of CEO or C-suite executive who is going to take you, train you, right? The military still has an apprenticeship program. Fire department still has an apprenticeship program. Police department still has an apprenticeship program. There is nothing wrong with falling under the mentorship of an individual who has mastered that particular thing and learning the right way to do it, right? And when we say the right way to do it, of course, there are more than one ways to skin a cat, but it's a way for you to establish that foundation in order to build up your reputation that you offer quality services, a quality product, quality consultation, quality information, whatever it is that you're doing. Apprenticeship is extremely important, and we shouldn't really turn our nose up at it.
Yeah, and the thing about that, we can go a long way about sharpening your sword,
Mhm.
but what she is saying is falling under somebody, right? And she's talking about break out into being entrepreneurs, but you also have people. I mean, everybody can't be an entrepreneur, right? So you do have people who are going to be employed, or employees.
Mhm.
But the thing, you can fall under somebody and they can teach you a certain type of leadership skill,
Mhm.
right? Hey, I like his leadership skill. No, I don't really like what he did, and you can learn and you can tweak your leadership skills. So when people fall under your command,
Mhm.
you have, something to lean back on, right? You don't want to just put people, in charge of something and they don't really have any reference of how to manage people and things like that. So, like she said, apprenticeship, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. You watch these shows, like she said, Master Chef. You
Mhm.
watch these shows, this is apprentice chef, and this person gets to be a sous chef or something like that. And you get to be, right, the head chef.
Mhm.
It goes
Mhm.
through the stages. It goes through same thing with things like an electrician or something like that. You'll be a journeyman until you get to the master, right?
Mhm.
Apprentice, journeyman, master. Is that
Mhm.
the right order?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Y'all fact
Like
check me on
master
that.
sergeant, chief master sergeant, right? When we were in the military, we have what's called an AFSC. So it's the Air Force Specialty Code. And that Air Force Specialty Code it's a number that it's an alphanumeric, I'm sorry, it's an
Mhm.
alphanumeric code that identifies what your occupation is in the military. For those of you who may be familiar, it's the same as an MOS for the Army. And I don't know what the Navy calls theirs. Anyway, not important. But we had levels. So when I joined when I joined the Air Force, I was a 4AO 3-1.
Yeah.
That 3, the 4AO was like you're an admin, right? But the 3 was my occupational skill level, right? I was an apprentice. And then when I came out of apprenticeship, I graduated to a 5. Then when you move to leadership, it becomes a 7. And then when you become a chief, it's a 9. So you would be a 4AO 9-1. And as soon as somebody sees that code, they know that you are some type of administrative chief master sergeant of the United States military.
Yeah, but the 9 right there gave you that mastery.
Right. It was the
That
9 that said
mastery.
you're at the top tier
Yeah.
of your occupational skill. So it was a way to identify quickly on paper where this person was from apprenticeship to mastery in your organization and your platoon and your battalion and your squadron, so on and so on and so forth. So it's something similar. I remember when you were a firefighter, there was an apprenticeship program where the
Right.
military paid you or
Right.
something.
And you go up through the ranks, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Mhm.
and then you would rank up after that. So
Right.
it's just a way of showing, and what we talk about mastery, right?
Mhm.
Mastery. So you could sit under somebody, say, for whatever, 10, 15 years, and then go about your business, start your own business or become a leader in your organization. And that's what we're trying to talk about there in that point, because with the entrepreneur, it's kind of like, it's cool to be an entrepreneur now,
Mhm.
right? That's the thing. And so sometimes you got to sit down behind somebody
And learn.
learn for a long time. We talked about it on another show where was it Socrates, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Socrates had to wait to be 40 years old before he could get to the mastery school in ancient Kemet.
Mhm.
And so then once he was already 40, leveled all that way up, and then had to go sit down behind somebody else
And listen,
and listen.
right? He
And just
couldn't pull
listen.
rank on them. He had to sit and listen.
He had to listen. He had to sit at their feet and listen. So that's what that means. And these things. If you read the book, you can extrapolate whatever you want out of it.
Mhm.
A lot of it is for personal development, but also professional development, within your organization. But you could also use these habits for your life development.
Mhm.
Right? Take it for and use it the way that you see. I'm sorry, see fit. That's
Mhm.
fine. Sometimes. And it's a great book. Like I said, it was written in 1989, over 40 million.
People have read it.
Yeah, so
Purchased it.
and I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar. Maybe a lot of you guys have already read it, but it's a great book, and it's great for your mindset, just to kind of keep your day and your life organized, and just have ideas of what you want to do. And I really like it. I really liked it. You talked about it, right?
Mhm.
Professional development
Mhm.
uh,
Always.
meetings and things like that. So, and, we like to go over books from time to time. She's an avid reader.
Yes,
I read textbooks and stuff like that.
He
It's
read
pretty,
when I tell him to read.
but
No, I'm just joking.
I don't really. But yeah, that's a really good book. And
But I do want to make 2 points with the sharpening
definitely.
the sword. So understand too that once your sword is sharpened, I'm talking
Say it
about
10
like
times.
his.
Say it 10
I
times.
ain't had no feeling today. I've been
Say
drinking
it 10
water.
times.
You have to continue to sharpen the sword. For anybody who cooks, hubby bought me this really good knife sharpener, right? Your knife can be Ginsu sharp. You got to keep sharpening it. If you're using it, especially we talk about the technological age that we are currently in makes something today is obsolete tomorrow, and not even tomorrow. Sometimes something that's relevant at 9 a.m. is now completely obsolete by 3:30 in the afternoon, East Coast time. So sharpening your sword requires you to always keep it sharp, which means this is a continuing thing that you have to constantly be achieving, looking at, revising, reviewing, revisioning, right? Revisioning. When we talk about revisions, that's very, very important. Sometimes you have to look at the vision again and maybe tweak it. And if you're tweaking the vision, you have to kind of tweak the things along the way to bring that vision into fruition.
Yeah, and I wanted to, because I went on one way about sharpening your sword as far as mastery.
Mhm.
But one thing you have to remember is you have to always continue to educate yourself. Out here you hear a lot about people, if they have education, they figure, boom, that's it. I went to school, I got this degree, I got that degree. I don't need to learn nothing else. But the world is changing so fast that you have to continually educate yourself on, whatever the things it may be. It's different ways. You see, we have our parents and grandparents, and as stuff evolved, they didn't understand certain things. Simple stuff like online payments. They still used to writing a check and sending it in, and it's like, no, you could just get on the app and then you could pay there. And they don't understand that. So you always have to continue to educate yourself, and as far as you can, as long as you can, I should say, as long as you can. But that's about it. Did we go too long?
We went over. Yeah. So likely you guys are going to have a part 2 of this. I'm going to try to do a card so that that's part 2. I'm going to continue the conversation from where we left off because we did go over.
Yeah, or we might just run it back on the same day. We don't got nothing else to do, right?
Oh yeah, where it could just come on right after. That would be smart, right? We'll do that.
All
So
right.
if you're seeing this, thank you so much for your patience, but I may cut it at the 30-minute mark and then make the other 30 minutes or 30 plus minutes the end of the show. But if you guys have not read that book, go ahead and grab it. Again, like we talk about, successful people read, right? They're going to tell you this book, that book, the third book. Reading does something to your brain. It creates new neural pathways. it processes information, it takes information, it downloads information into your subconscious. So it's a lot more effective than, like you say, scrolling IG timeline, scrolling Facebook, scrolling it. Not to say you can't do it, right? Because everybody needs that little pocket of the day where they just need to kind of decompress and not really do anything. But you absolutely want to add reading as part of your craftsmanship. Right? Doesn't matter what you do. If you are just a Bitcoin maximalist, you say, I don't provide a service, I don't sell a product, I'm just focused on investing, then part of your craftsmanship should be maybe reading things on how to be a more effective investor, how to make your wealth portfolio more effective. Whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you prefer to do, whatever it is that you aspire to do, you absolutely want to incorporate reading as part of that journey. Like I said, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, they're constantly reading, they're constantly developing their professional development as well as their personal development. So if you can create a goal of maybe one book a month, and a lot of these books, now that book's pretty long because it was written in the 80s. But if you notice that books that are written, I'm going to say like 2010 to current day, they're short, they're clear, they're concise. It doesn't take long. You read it on your Kindle, right? I prefer a physical book. I like the feel of the paper, and trees are they're high frequency organisms. So I like to kind of hold the book. But at times I don't have access to a physical book, so I do have to do my Kindle. Kindle Unlimited on Amazon is $9.99 a month. You can read and read and read and read and read your heart's desire for free. It's almost like paying for a library membership. So if that is something that you can add, it is something where your money is productive. You do get a return on investment because you are able to get the information you need in order to do better in life. So it's a well-spent $10 a month. I read 2 to 3 to maybe 4 books a month, just depending on how short the books are. But my minimum is absolutely, I read 2 books a month, every single month, every year, so on and so forth. And of course, there are some months when I'm able to get more books in. So
unfortunately, I read textbooks, so I got to fight through them.
That's why he pays me the big bucks, because I do all the heavy lifting.
I gotta fight through a 900-page textbook.
For the boys, right? And multiple textbooks.
I gotta fight through.
You know, it's like, this is the elements of astrophysics. I'm like, oh, you reading that?
Yeah,
it's 4:30 in the morning. Like, I want to get back in the bed. I don't want to read this. So yeah, reading should be another habit that should be added to the habits of effective people, habits of leadership, habits of even personal development. Reading should be a critical component of that.
Yeah, they told us when we were kids in school, reading is fundamental. That's what they told us. So, we kept with it, right?
I found that to be true. So even algebra, some people are just like, well, what do I need this for? The process that you're learning helps you with problem solving in life. So when Simon is homeschooling the kids, he makes it a point, an emphatic point, to always be able to give them real world application for the things that they're learning, so that that skill set can be transferred in a way where they can apply it in life. We are very big on wisdom, right? It's nice for you to be knowledgeable. It's nice for you to know all of this information, but knowledge is absolutely nothing if you are unable to find a way to apply it in order to better yourself, better the quality of your life, to get you further along in life and to help you in your life's journey.
Yeah, that's it.